Hey friends, happy Thursday. Welcome back to another Cook with Kris. I'm so excited to share with you one of my favorite spring recipes. We are going to be making some Asian-inspired turkey lettuce cups. I have all of my ingredients out in front of me. Most of it's prepped. We're gonna prep a little bit of it together, and I'm gonna share with you how I make this really easy and very family-friendly kind of weeknight dinner. This is gonna come together. We're gonna chat a little bit, we're gonna chop some things, but overall, it's only gonna take about 20 minutes or so. It's a really quick dinner, especially if you have things prepped ahead of time. It comes together in anywhere from 15 to 25 minutes, depending on how fast you are when it comes to chopping. So let me go ahead and share with you the ingredients I have in front of me. I've got one over there I've gotta grab, and then we'll go ahead and get cooking. So these Asian-inspired turkey lettuce cups combine a bunch of different kind of Asian-style flavors, a bunch of veggies, and I put them all in these little lettuce cups. This is just butter lettuce, but it's also really delicious served over rice. If you have family members or kiddos who don't love the lettuce wraps, I've got one who loves it and one who doesn't. So the first thing that we're gonna need is some sort of lettuce. Now this is a local company, if any of you are local to the New England, Massachusetts, Rhode Island area. I love this brand. They're called Gotham Greens, and these are already like pre-washed, and these are amazing. So much easier. But oftentimes, Boston lettuce or Bibb lettuce will come in this big bunch. You could also use that's attached to the bottom. You just chop the bottom off, and you can rinse them, dry them really well before you serve them. Otherwise, they'll get wilty. But these are already pre-done. You can also use romaine lettuce or iceberg lettuce if you want to as well. But I find the butter lettuce has more flavor to it. And it's just as kind of like crispy as that, not crispy, but kind of crisp as that iceberg lettuce. So you're gonna need some sort of lettuce cup, or you can use rice as your base. And for our filling, you need some sort of ground meat. So I'm using ground turkey today. You could also use ground chicken. You could use ground beef if you want, but that's typically what I prefer for these. It's a lot lighter and fresher, and it just seems to go a little bit better. And both turkey and chicken really absorb that flavor of this really beautiful veggie and like vegetables and sauce that we're gonna put together with the filling. So you're gonna need about half of a chopped onion, a whole bunch of chopped mushrooms. I can't remember how much is in the actual recipe. About a cup. Let's say a heaping cup of chopped mushrooms. Honestly, use as many chopped mushrooms as you want because it is, they're gonna wilt down a lot. So chopped mushrooms. I'm going to use a box grater to grate some carrot. About a quarter cup each carrot, and finely shredded cabbage, which I will use my knife for. Ginger and garlic, whoops. Some thinly sliced green onion, and I like to top it with some cilantro as well. For our sauce ingredients that are gonna give it a ton of flavor, other than just the ginger and the garlic, we're gonna cook in some toasted sesame oil. We're not cooking at a super high heat, so I don't mind using some toasted sesame oil. It adds a ton of flavor. If you don't have sesame oil, no worries. You can also use avocado oil or just a plain olive oil. You don't wanna use extra virgin, that's for salads. Those both work as well. Coconut oil works too, but that will add more of a coconut flavor, especially if it is extra virgin coconut oil. So I like sesame oil for cooking for this purpose. And I'm going to use, these are actually brand new bottles because I ran out. I've been doing a lot of Asian style recipes. Coconut Aminos. If you don't have coconut Aminos, you can absolutely use a soy sauce. You might want to add something a little bit sweet to balance it out, but coconut Aminos are both sweet and salty. So this is the brand that I just grabbed at Whole Foods, but there are several brands of coconut Aminos. It's kind of like a soy-free soy sauce, but again, you can use soy sauce, you can use tamari as well. I love adding a splash of hoisin sauce, and this is a kind of a sweet Japanese sauce. You could also use Worcestershire sauce if you don't have hoisin sauce, or leave it out, and then a little bit of rice vinegar. So that's all we're gonna need. Let's go ahead and let's start putting it together. So of course, for any recipe that we're gonna make, we need to do our mise en place. I already started my mise en place just a little bit. I chopped up my onion, I chopped up my mushrooms, and I just wanted to share with you guys a couple tips while we're getting everything else ready. So I'm just gonna go ahead and I'm gonna peel my carrot. I shared this in an Instagram reel the other day, how important it is to peel away from you instead of towards you. You guys, game changer. It is so easy to cut yourself when you go like this and you have things flying in your face. please do me a favor, get yourself a good peeler and peel away from you. It's gonna make such a difference when it comes to being more efficient in the kitchen. So my sister is actually upstairs right now. She's my videographer, by the way, if any of you guys did not know that. When I get my video taken, other than now, you guys are on a tripod. She takes my videos, and she was asking me what kind of kitchen tools that I thought she needed. And one that I don't oftentimes mention that I use all the time is a box grater. I use a box grater to shred vegetables and put them in like everything. When I make homemade pasta sauce, I put as many vegetables as I can. I like doing mushrooms. I love doing carrot. I don't shred the mushrooms, I chop those. I love doing carrots. I love doing zucchini. I love doing sweet potato. And I put all of those in meatballs. I put them in mini meatloaves. I put them in muffins. Shredding up vegetables is a great way to, and they melt into things, okay? To get more veggies in your meals and have it not really feel like you're eating a ton of vegetables. And they do add a lot of flavor too. And this works really well for kids. I don't recommend, I'm not a huge fan of hiding foods for kids, but it is a lot less intimidating when things are in smaller pieces. So I just went ahead and shredded up my one very, very big carrot. And like I said, the nice thing about this recipe, it's really, really packed with vegetables, but you would never know because everything's chopped into really small pieces and it all comes together into this really beautiful filling. So those are my carrots. I'm also gonna take a hunk of this red cabbage. So remember, whenever we have something that's round, I wanna make sure to grab a flat surface. Now, I don't need a lot of this cabbage, so I'm just gonna hold it really firmly and just chop off the side. But if I was gonna chop the rest of the cabbage, now I've got a flat surface. Now I can chop the rest of it. For this, I just need this little tiny piece, and I'm just gonna make sure I'm holding it really carefully, and I'm just gonna slice it nice and thin. Secret to slicing something like cabbage really thin is to use a really sharp knife. I'm using my favorite Global vegetable knife right now, which my sister just bought hers. I told her that she needed. I'm gonna cut this in half because it's a little bit wide for my vegetable knife, but this knife is really sharp and it's really easy to use. So a sharp knife is gonna help you slice things nice and thin. And these pieces aren't super long, but I'm still gonna cut them in half anyway because I want it all to kind of blend together well. And one of the best ways to make sure things cook evenly is just to chop it evenly. Okay, so what else do we need? We've got onions, we got our mushrooms, we've got our carrots, we've got our cabbage. I'm gonna put that in a bowl. Will I post this? Yes, I will. I always post the replays to IGTV as long as Instagram lets me, and the recipe is gonna be in my stories after. So yes, it'll definitely be posted after if any of you guys can't stay for the whole thing. And I'm gonna grab some green onions as well. I like putting the green onions in kind of towards the end because I like them to have a little bit of a zippy flavor to them. Zippy, that's a really technical term in case you guys didn't know. All right, so I'm just gonna slice these really thin on a diagonal. And if you guys didn't know, for the most part, you're just gonna wanna use the white part of the onion. That's what's gonna have the most flavor. And so I'm not gonna use these towards the end. My cutting board is slipping because I haven't secured it well enough. I just go probably right up until it starts to turn green. And I'm just using 2. You could use more. And I forgot to mention that you can double or triple this recipe very easily for larger families as well. Let me grab. I need my little bowls for my smaller tasks. And then I'm just gonna go ahead and I'm going to microplane my ginger and my garlic just so everything is done, because you guys are gonna see how quickly this comes together. I'm already preheating my pan over here. It's not super hot, but I love how quickly this comes together, especially when everything is mise en place, everything in its place. Yes, you're welcome. I love sharing these with you guys, and I know that not everyone can join live at 2 o'clock, or it's 2 o'clock for me here, Eastern, which means it's a lot earlier for some of you guys, or later, depending on where you are in the world. So I'm just gonna go ahead and peel this. You know what? I'm gonna show you guys a trick. Who was I telling about this the other day? It might have also been my sister. Easiest way, honestly, you guys, to peel ginger is with the back of a spoon. If you guys don't already do this, you can use a peeler. but it is like really awkwardly shaped. And so if you guys can see, it's super easy. It's awkwardly shaped, and I know that some peelers are very sharp, and it can be kind of intimidating to peel something that looks kind of like a finger and not get your own finger. So using the back of a spoon is a really easy way to peel a piece of ginger. And I say the back of a spoon, but it's really the side. Okay, so once it's just mostly peeled, we're gonna go ahead and microplane this baby. Microplane, favorite kitchen tool, other than my knife. I feel like my knife gets jealous every time I say that the microplane is my favorite kitchen tool. That's how attached I am to my kitchen tools. But as you guys will see, if you guys didn't already see, I just posted a tour of my small home kitchen over on Instagram, and a whole kitchen declutter. Now, my kitchen is very minimalist. I don't use a ton of tools. I don't have like pans and pans and pans. I use what I love. I have a very efficient kitchen, and it is surprisingly not filled with a million different gadgets, but it's really easy to cook in. So I just actually shared a tour of my kitchen, and I'm gonna share the, I shared kind of a before tour. I'm gonna share the after tomorrow. So if you guys haven't joined our Spring Clean Your Kitchen Challenge, it's free. It's gonna be the entire month of April. We're starting tomorrow. It's gonna be so much fun. We're gonna declutter our kitchens and really organize them to be nice and functional so that cooking just feels easier, which is what we all want, right? All right, ready to go. The only other thing I need is to chop my cilantro, which I'm gonna go ahead and do after because that's gonna be our topping. So I'm gonna clear this out of the way so I can go ahead and put my hot plate in front of me so you guys can see how I put this together. All right, let me go ahead and not burn myself. Pull this in front of me. We are going to work fast, okay? We're a little hot, so I'm just gonna turn this down for a second so we're not too hot. I always tell people to, let's see, I need a trivet. I always tell people to, not be afraid of heat. Heat is what cooks your food. And so oftentimes we are afraid of putting things up at too high a heat because we're afraid we're gonna burn it. And yes, that's true. We don't want it too high. That's why I took it off, because we don't want it to burn. But heat is what cooks your food. And if things aren't hot enough, then you're not gonna get the desired effect that you want, right? So don't be afraid of heat, but definitely be mindful of something smoking. You might wanna turn it down just a little bit. So we're gonna cook this at about medium-high heat. And we are just gonna go ahead and start with the onions and the mushrooms. Actually, you know what? Nope, I totally lied, you guys. We're gonna start with the turkey. We're gonna cook the turkey in the sesame oil. We're gonna season it well, and then we're gonna take that out, put it aside, and then we're gonna go ahead and do the vegetables one by one. And when the vegetables are all cooked, we'll go ahead and add the turkey in. And this prevents the turkey from overcooking as we're waiting for the vegetables to cook. But as you see, this is gonna come together pretty fast. All right, I think we should be ready. I had to open up my bottles, which we're not Food Network. I don't have an assistant in the kitchen with me. Ramsey moved to Rhode Island. Ramsey's my VA for you guys who don't know, and she's amazing, but she doesn't live here. All right, we're gonna go ahead and throw some sesame oil in. I'm gonna turn it back up a little bit. About a tablespoon of sesame oil. I'm going to add my turkey to the bottom and try not to splash myself with oil. And clean because food safety. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and season this really well. You wanna make sure you are seasoning as you go. All of the components of your dish need seasoning. Turkey, chicken, any sort of poultry definitely needs to be seasoned well. So I've got that sesame oil in, about medium-high heat. You can hear it sizzling, it's nice and hot. I'm just breaking that up with my spatula. And we're just gonna let that cook for just a second. Make sure it's all in there. If you want this to move along a little bit faster, if you have a cover for your pan, and I'm just using a wide pan here, you can use a saute pan, you can use a cast iron. This is what I got today. If you have a cover, the cover will help it to cook for just a second. You know what? While this cooks, I'm gonna go ahead and get my cilantro prepped, because you guys know I like to have as much mise en place done ahead of time as I can, but there are some things that can just be done when other things are cooking, right? It's all about doing your mise en place and then multitasking when it actually makes sense. One of my biggest tips for more efficiency in the kitchen is to start the item that's going to cook the longest first and do your other tasks in between. So that means if the turkey's gonna take longest to cook, obviously we know that we wanna get the vegetables in right away after, so we had those prepped ahead of time. This is just gonna be kind of the topping at the end. I also love topping it with sesame seeds, by the way. Really, really good. I happen to not have any, but it's really good. So we want the veggies ready to go, but I've got some time while it's cooking, so I might as well get the cilantro ready. It's all about learning where it makes sense to do the mise en place and where it makes sense to do a little bit of multitasking. Just gonna grab a bowl because this turkey will be done in just a minute. All right, let's see if we have any more questions. Not right now. Okay. Feel free to ask any questions as I'm going. I do my best in between cooking to answer any of them. So after this, you guys, I have some really delicious recipes planned for our Cook with Kris on Thursdays next month. So I'm gonna post that after this recipe goes up. I'm gonna go ahead and post those to my stories. I'm always gonna go live on Thursday afternoons, or at least for now, at least in this season, I'm going live on Thursday afternoons, and I always post the recipes to my stories after. So next week, I'm gonna make my spring chicken salad, my spring chicken soup, my spring wild rice, and my spring wild rice chicken soup. So it's kind of your classic chicken soup that's made spring with some spring herbs and some lemon and some wild rice, and it's a really delicious spin on your traditional chicken soup. Apparently I've got chicken salad on the brain. Maybe I need to record you guys a chicken salad too. Probably not on Cook with Kris, but maybe a reel? Maybe we'll do that. Apparently chicken salad's on my brain. Okay, this is almost cooked up, you guys. We want to cook it until it's just not pink anymore. You don't want to overcook your turkey because it will get dry. And I believe the week after that, I think I'm going to make you guys my Greek chicken and orzo. That's a one-pan recipe. So they're chicken meatballs with orzo, and they're cooked all in one big pan. I'm going to make chicken piccata this month as well. I think that's it. I will share it to my stories after, so check it out. I always put up, or I try to put up a timer. So our countdown timer, so you guys can be notified when you guys want to watch these with me. Okay, we're good to go. We're gonna put this in a bowl. If it's not entirely done, no big deal, because it's gonna go back in at the end, but you want it to be mostly done. And we're gonna get as much of that turkey out as possible, just because we don't want it to burn on the bottom. If there's a couple little pieces, no worries. I'm gonna add another little tiny splash of sesame oil. We don't need a ton. There's already a little bit in the bottom there. I'm just gonna let that heat up for a second, and then I'm going to go ahead and add my veggies. So we're gonna start with the onion. There we go. And the mushrooms, we're gonna put those in together. And we're just gonna cook them until the onions are translucent and the mushrooms are starting to cook down. Once this gets hot again, which will only take a second, because I had turned it down because I didn't want the turkey to overcook. coating this all in oil, okay? I'm gonna season it in just a second. It'll come together pretty quickly, and the other vegetables, because they're shredded, will also come together pretty quickly. All right. I'm gonna go ahead and season that. Remember, we wanna season all components of our dish as we go so that they're actually seasoned. We're not just dumping seasonings on at the end. Now, I am using coconut aminos, and coconut aminos are pretty salty, so I'm not using a ton, just enough to season. And most steps. Sometimes I won't season. I probably won't season my carrots and my cabbage because I'm adding the dressings to it, so maybe dressings isn't the right word. The sauces? Okay, we're starting to cook over here. So typically, I always recommend when something's in your pan, leave it, let it cook. Because I am cooking at a higher heat, I'm doing a little bit more of a stir fry, and I am moving it around quite a bit. The reason why you wanna make sure you let things cook is so that they can get brown, especially when you're cooking something, when you're sauteing something in a pan like this. The oil is what is cooking. The oil and the heat from the pan is what's cooking, and if it's never in the pan, if you're moving it around so much that it's always in the air, it's never really gonna cook. It's one of the reasons why people complain that cooking takes too long, and it's because you won't leave your hands off of it. You gotta step away sometimes and let it cook. But in this instance, it's pretty high heat, and I'm moving it around just so it doesn't burn, but it is cooking. And this is pretty darn good. It's just gonna be another minute, maybe, and it'll be nice and translucent, and we can go ahead and add our other ingredients. I also wanna remind you guys, we don't need to be crazy obsessive about something looking perfect before we add in the other ingredients. If there's more cooking time, there's more cooking time, and we don't need to worry about it. They will cook. And you're gonna taste as you go, so you're gonna make sure that you're not serving food that's raw, right? Season as you go, taste as you go, let your food cook. Okay, we're looking translucent. That just means see-through. We're gonna add our carrots. Notice that I'm not adding the ginger and the garlic right now because I know that the carrots and the cabbage are gonna take a little bit of time. You can put the ginger and the garlic in before if you want to, but you really do need to watch it. So I'm just mixing this all together. Again, we want to coat it with oil. And I'm going to cover it for just a second, just to let it kind of wilt down a little bit. So this is employing steaming when you're doing this. So don't be surprised if you do put the cover on when you're cooking and you open it up and there's a little bit of liquid in the bottom. You are trapping any of the water in the vegetables in here and creating steam. So right now we are utilizing two different cooking methods, okay? We are utilizing sauteing and the oil in the bottom, right? And then we're also utilizing steaming. If you want your food to be crispy, or you want your food to have like a caramelization on it, or for vegetables, or a Maillard reaction, that golden like crust on some sort of a meat, then you don't want to cover it because it needs the air. You don't want to be steaming it. You want to make sure that there is air in between the items that you're cooking and contact to the actual pan that you're cooking on in order to create that reaction. Now for this instance, these are just lettuce wraps. I'm not worried about anything getting brown. I'm just going for cooking fast and flavor. So look at that. It is almost cooked. Makes such a difference. Just learning those little things like, you know what? I want to speed this up a little bit. So I think I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to throw the cover on for just a minute. Little things make you more efficient in the kitchen. it's not always applicable. So here it is. Okay. Right about the time where I want to go ahead and add my ginger and my garlic. And I'm just going to use my fingers because I'm not serving it to a crowd today. Just my family. Just mixing that around. Make sure you mix it around because it does tend to clump. You can smell it. It smells so good. The reason why I'm adding these a little bit later is because there is some cooking time to the vegetables, and we do not want the ginger and the garlic to burn. It makes them bitter. We don't want bitter garlic or ginger. Okay. And when you leave the garlic that has been minced for a couple minutes, the components, the allicin, the immune boosting components, adding the turkey back, of that garlic are enhanced. So that's awesome. Okay, mixing this all together. I'm just adding that turkey back. As soon as those vegetables are cooked, things are flying. As soon as those vegetables are cooked, we're gonna go ahead and add that turkey back in. And I'm gonna add my sauces to it. We're gonna taste, and then we'll add that green onion just before the end. And then I'll show you how they all come out in beautiful lettuce wraps. Okay, so the ginger and the garlic are the first main component of the flavor that makes this sort of Asian inspired. And I say Asian inspired because this is not any particular cuisine. We're just using kind of Asian inspired flavors. We're gonna add our coconut aminos. So this is to taste. I like adding about a tablespoon to start. And again, you guys can see I'm not measuring. And I add about a teaspoon of hoisin or Worcestershire sauce. And a couple teaspoons of rice vinegar. You can always add more salt. Remember, with salt and any sort of seasonings you're adding, you can always add, you can't take away. So it's okay to add a little bit. We're gonna let this absorb into our meat and our veggies. I like to cook it until, whoopsies, most of the liquid is cooked down. And I'm gonna taste it, and then we can add more. Typically I end up adding a little bit more coconut aminos. Like I mentioned before, you can absolutely use soy sauce. You're definitely not gonna need more salt if you add soy sauce or tamari, which is gluten-free soy sauce. But if you want something a little bit sweeter, you can either use sweetened rice vinegar, or you can, which is like sushi vinegar, which this is. This is just what we keep on hand. You can also use a dash of maple syrup. All right, we're gonna try a little tiny bit of it over here. Really hot. So good. I'm gonna add the tiniest bit more coconut aminos. It has a really delicious, slightly salty, slightly sweet flavor. You've got hints of that ginger and that garlic in there. And you are always welcome to add more ginger or garlic if you want more of that ginger or garlic flavor. I just used 1 garlic clove. Now I'm thinking, I should have used 2. You guys know how much I love my garlic. But that's the beauty of creating this in your own kitchen. If you're like, I want something more gingery, then use more than an inch of ginger. Use 2. And sometimes we're in the mood for more or less, right? Okay, we're gonna add our couple of green onions. And also add more of those if you want. They're also delicious if you like raw green onions, right on the top at the end. And we're adding those in. So they just cook slightly, so they're not totally raw, but they still have that little bit of, I called it zippy before. I don't know what else. If you guys have a better word, let me know. All right, we're gonna give it one more taste after those coconut aminos and that little bit of green onion. And if you're just hopping on, we are almost done with our Asian lettuce cups. However, Asian inspired lettuce cups. The recipe is gonna be in my stories later, and you guys can watch the replay of this whenever you'd like. So good. Is it dinner time yet? Okay, friends, let's put this together. Let's make it dinner. Just gonna move this to the side. I have lots of things precariously balanced in the kitchen right now, so just making some room. So we are at 2:33 right now, you guys. With me chatting with you guys, this is an easy dinner. Perfect for spring and summer when you don't really want to cook, but you want something more than just a salad. This recipe is where it's at. So I'm just gonna take my lettuce cups. These are pre-washed, otherwise wash them. Nobody wants like that little bit of a sand. No, not appealing. Okay, and we're just gonna fill up those lettuce cups. This is great with kids too, and I just put the lettuce cut or the mixture on the table with a big spoon, and the kids love to go ahead and just scoop their own into the lettuce cups, and then you'd be surprised how much greenery the kids eat when they get to do it themselves. Same thing we do when we do like salad bar for dinner. Now, I certainly enjoy more than 2 of these. But for the sake of sharing with you guys, let's go ahead. Let's put some cilantro on top. Sesame seeds are also delicious. Sliced green onions, like I mentioned. And there you have it. Really easy Asian-inspired turkey lettuce cups. Delicious, flavorful. I gave you guys a ton of modifications, so you can use whatever you have in your house. Throw these together for a really delicious spring dinner. It's also really good for leftovers as well. So super, super tasty. Thank you guys so much for joining me today. It was so fun to share one of my favorite spring recipes with you guys. Like I mentioned, I'm going to share with you what I'm going to cook for the next few weeks over in my stories after this. And if you're watching this later, I try and do a couple reminders before I go live on Thursdays at 2 o'clock so you guys can see what I am cooking. Right now, I'm saving the recipes until after I share with you guys how I cook, but there will be an option in the future for you guys to cook right alongside me. So stay tuned for that. Okay, friends, I don't see any more questions, so I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna log off. I really wanna go eat this now, but I got a little bit more to do before dinner time. So I hope you guys will enjoy this soon. If you do, please let me know. Share in your stories, tag me in it. I love to see when you guys cook my recipes. So I will see you guys next week, same place, same time. And until then, have a great week.